morning, all. Thank you for being on the call. On behalf of the Pittsburgh Foundation, the Forbes Funds Board, the extended philanthropic family of supporters, and of course our staff at the Forbes Funds, we pray that you and your families remain safe and healthy as a result of our recent uptick in our cases. We ask that people take precautions. We also want to always acknowledge the fallen citizens in the U.S. and around the world as we honor their lives and contributions. Their losses create light that provide us a way to look at a brighter future. Through the assaults on their humanity, we find ourselves having more camaraderie in this capacity to look at Black Lives Movement in a way that is going around the world. I want to talk a little bit about relationships today and building relationships that transform. I was talking with Dr. Logan actually yesterday, and he's an epigeneticist, and he talked about the neurological emotional peptides in every individual that needs to be replaced. And it can't be replaced through reading a book. It has to be replaced through some experiential, neurological, emotional experience that replaces peptides. And so I've been asked over the past few months, what can I do to help? Other people have asked me and said to me they didn't know we had a problem. They didn't know it was this bad. And I wrote an article several weeks ago talking about when you can't walk away. But what I want to do is take a minute to really look at why, for us, people of color, it's been difficult to move on and not have a sense of resolve around what Black Lives Matter is doing with regards to galvanizing the sector around this particular issue. Black and brown people have been assaulted and put in conditions of learning through institutional practices for over 450 years. When you look at chattel slavery, and please look at these terms and research them, Jim Crow laws, Mississippi epidemic, the Tuskegee experiment, the assassination of Black leaders, Black Wall Street, and Black Lives Matter. You see a series of activities that have taken place that has destroyed Black and brown people's ability to trust systems. And so when people have a level of trepidation around the systems today, what's required to rebuild their level of trust is to create safety in relationships with people that don't look like us. And that means sometimes these people represent systems that in many ways have hurt us. But the historical oppression of those systems can be changed by the people that occupy those seats today. When you talk about people coming through 100 years of lynching, Black and brown people aren't defined by their jobs. They're defined by our humanity, how we look at ourselves. In many instances, we find ourselves in spaces where people see their jobs as an extension of themselves, and they're executed in a way that reflects the job and not their humanity. We seek to create a space where all people are valued, where all ways of life and being are valued and appreciated. And it's not just driven by your vocation, but the relationships you're able to garner as a result of your position. For us, focusing on human-centered approaches is important. We're currently in a partnership with our partner in Sousse in Tunisia, and we'll be launching an international human-centered whole person platform to generate transgenerational leadership through the COVID era. Our goal is pretty simple. We want to promote transgenerational leadership. We want to look at the Department of the Future's capacity to help us build future gazing opportunities based upon human-centered design. We want to look at what we call dominant culture blind spots and how we can reshift the focus on human-centered design. We want to understand intuitively what is whole person systems approaches. How do we create connections for people to build ecosystems? We want to look at some of the pioneering work, such as the work at the Harlem Children's Zone. Their wireframe framework is important to look at. And we have a local example of that in the Homewood Children's Village. Although there's differences budgetarily, the theory is the same. Our partnership with SUSE will be a sister city collaboration where we're mirroring some of the very things that city is having as a challenge, one of which is frustrated with the talent that's leaving our city, our youth, frustrated youth that are going underground. How do we build a robust and inclusive and inviting 21st century global economy? And then taking into account that based upon the pandemic, we're looking at losing between 25 to 30% of the elders in the world. What does that mean when you lose that much wisdom at one time? And so we have to really take into account how we build relationships that transform our current ecosystems. One of the ways that we continue to do this at the Forbes Funds is hosting meetings such as this. We've hosted 580 Zoom meetings and have had 9,014 participants on those calls. The number is astounding when you think about what's going on today, but what's more important is what we glean from those conversations, what we hear from stakeholders on the ground, and how hearing that information helps us make different decisions and be more informed about distress and shocks to the sector. And so I'm excited about what we're going to hear today from the two very bright spots in our communities, two bright women, what they have to offer to the sector, and how we look at galvanizing our system in a way that serves our people.